Welcome back to The Basics Basic. We're working on HRCYED and we are jumping right into the first book because coming off of last week, I had just finished The Giver of Stars and literally picked up the next book I wanted to read because it felt like it was going to be similar and a great time and I needed another 5-star. So I picked up one of my 5-star predictions, The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. I love Kristin Hannah. So I typically save Kristin Hannah books for a time when I'm ready for a 5-star because I know her books are just going to be so good, especially to me. Like, she is an author that I trust and would read pretty much anything by. I've read 8 books by her. Almost all of them have been 5 stars. There was one that I just didn't like at all. It was one of her earlier releases, but I'm a huge Kristin Hannah fan. So I knew when I finished Giver of Stars last week that I needed something I was going to be really excited for. So I picked The Great Alone because A, it's on my monthly TBR, and B, I've had so many friends tell me I'm going to love it whose reading taste I trust, and C, I just was ready for it. I've been waiting for a moment to start it, and it was the time. It was the moment. Basically, The Great Alone is set in the 1970s, and it is premised with this man named Ernst who is a Vietnam veteran. He moves his family to Alaska, so his wife Cora and their daughter Lenny. This is a coming of age story about Lenny. So it is her story of being the only child in this little family as they battle the elements outside and then the elements inside. So Ernst has a lot of trauma that he needs to work through. He's a very paranoid man and he is just not a great influence on his family, and just there's a lot of unrest and unease, and sometimes it's more dangerous to be inside the cabin with him than it would be to be out in the Alaskan wilderness. And so this book basically is following Lenny and her mother Cora as they're figuring out what to do, how they handle being trapped in the winter with this man who's a little bit volatile and not super safe to do life with, but he's their family. And at what point does family go too far? And is there a limit there? And so that's kind of what this book centers around. And it's Lenny's coming of age as she learns about friendship and about romance, all while tiptoeing around her paranoid father. So the questions this book asks is, how do love and loyalty survive in the midst of violence and fear? And should they? It talks about, where do we find strength? Does it come from ourselves, or does it come from the people we choose to surround ourselves with? And if we surround ourselves with bad people, do we lose our strength, or does that come from other places? It also asks, how do you find the courage to do things that are maybe different than what you have been doing or what people around you recommend doing, even if it's going to cost you everything? This is a beautiful book. Please stop this video, go buy this book, pick it up from the library, whatever, read this book. It is very powerful. It's it's very emotional. I'm just gonna show you how I was at the end of this book. I just finished The Great Alone. I'm a little bit teary. Yeah, so I rated this 4.5 stars. Honestly, maybe a 5-star. I'm really up, oh, it's so close. It's so close. And honestly, over time, I may change my rating. I have a hard time rating books immediately after I finish them because I struggle with novelty bias of ooh, I just read this. I love this. This was so good. Once I'm a little bit more removed from it, or I've read a few books in between, I'll realize, yeah, it was a good book, but maybe it wasn't that good. So I try to rank things a little bit lower maybe than sometimes I would initially. I struggle with ranking. I need to come up with a system. And actually, if you have a good system of 5-star means this, 4-star means this, 3-star means this. I rarely rank anything under 3 stars, hardly ever. And I feel like maybe that means my ranking system's off because I feel like if I'm ranking it 2 stars, typically that means it's actually a 1-star read for me. So if you have any recommendations on how you rank books and what your ranking definition is, I'd be very intrigued in finding out more. The reason I put it at 4.5 instead of 5 is there are other Kristin Hannah books that I have loved and been mesmerized with that are better, in my opinion, than this one. I understand that my personal experience is going to influence how I appreciate and rate books. This was a book that I really liked. It's beautifully written. But there were things I didn't connect to personally as much as some of her other books. I really, really enjoyed it. I would recommend it to pretty much everyone. I first put this in the Spell Your Name spot on the board. I put this for Alone, in the Great Alone. I also put this in the 5-star predictions category. Obviously, I didn't give it a full 5 stars, but it was really close. It was a 4.5. So I think this was a great pick. I'm really happy to have had it on my board. I'm happy to have read it, and I would consider reading it again, but I'd probably read other Kristin Hannah's first. This is what the board looks like now that we have put our 2 new spots in for The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. Next, I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. And this was a book that the premise was so intriguing to me that I just had to read it. So basically, Naomi is a runaway bride, and she shows up in this town to find her evil twin sister, only to discover that her evil twin sister has stolen her car, her money, her laptop and phone, and has deposited her 11-year-old niece that she didn't know she had. Naomi goes from planning and preparing to be a wife to suddenly becoming a pseudo-mother to a niece she didn't know she had in the course of, 24 hours. So this woman is going through it, and she is a classic people pleaser. She is trying to make everything go well, and her own life is not her priority, which is a really interesting thing to read about, I think. And so there's this man named Knox who runs into her, and he is this like grumpy barber type. It's a very like grumpy sunshine dynamic. And she basically starts rebuilding her life, and he very begrudgingly is helping her. And so this book is very long. I think it was significantly longer than it needed to be. It was fine. I didn't love it. I rated it 3 stars. I got a little bit into a slump reading this because it just kept going, and it was also quite spicy, which again, not my taste. I wanted Lucy, the author, to trust me more. I feel like, especially in the beginning, there was this one character named Fee, and she'd like say the character's full name, and then she'd be like in parentheses, Fee for short, or she'd say Fee, and then she was like, remember that her full name is this, Fiasco, or whatever it was. I don't remember. But I remember just being like, yeah, I got it. Like, I know her name. I know who you're referring to. Like, trust me to track with you. I don't need hand-holding to read your book. And if you think I do, maybe you need to edit it more. I don't know. I just was kind of like, you can trust me. Like, please trust me and just write your book. I don't know. It felt like she was so worried about me remembering who this one character was, who wasn't even a huge part of the story. It was weird. There were things I liked about it. There were things I didn't like about it. It was not realistic. It was a very soapy type book. I will not read it again, and I'll probably give it away. Like, I'm not really going to keep this on my bookshelf. I do think it asks some interesting questions, specifically when it comes to being a people pleaser. And I think one of the questions it asks is, what does it mean to step up for family, even when it isn't easy? And alongside that, what does it mean to step up for yourself, even when it isn't easy? I think too, it asks, where's the line between caring for people and losing yourself within their problems? Which, like, oof. I think it also asks, what does healthy dependence look like? And how is healthy dependence different from people pleasing? If you are a people pleaser, this could be a really interesting book to read. If you want to read about people pleasing in a non-self-help way, this is a great option. I did also put this on the board. So first we put this in the Rainbow Challenge. This is the blue category. It was such a blue cover, I couldn't help myself. And I even wore my light blue to match the cover. And then the second spot I put this was in genre, and this is in the romance category. This is what the board looked like now with the spots filled from Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. So after that, I picked up The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. And boy, did this book surprise me. This book is about Cassie. She is a bookseller in New York City. She has this series of customers that she loves, and there's this one guy who comes in and he leaves her this gift, and it's called The Book of Doors. And she slowly figures out how to use this gift, and basically this book, if you hold it, any door can become every door. And so if she's holding the book and opens a door, whatever door she's visualizing or whatever place she's imagining, she can basically step into that world. So like teleportation, I want this book. This sounds amazing. I love to travel. If I could skip all of the flights and just get everywhere that easily, oh, I'd be in Florence right now. Anyway, so her and her roommate slash bestie Izzy, they kind of are hopping around New York and like learning about what this magic is. This is a magical realism book, so no one in this world expects there to be any magic, and so it's really fun for them to like kind of freak out as they realize this is a thing that's happening and how does this work, and it's very entertaining. But as they are engaging with this book, suddenly there are different dangers that come out of places, and there are evil people, and they realize that people would want to use this book for evil as opposed to using it for good. And they run into this man named Drummond Fox, and they basically pair up with him to keep these books safe because they learn that he has a library of very similar books in his possession, and they want to prevent these books from being used for evil. This book is basically about how they work together to like protect each other and work with this book, and it's just really beautiful, and I loved a lot of the decisions the author made. This is a debut, which I loved reading. I definitely want to read the next books he comes out with. I believe he published one like a month or two ago actually, so I definitely want to read that. And I rated this 4.5. I love this book. It completely surprised me. It was unlike anything I'd really read. It kind of reminded me of the Midnight Library. It kind of reminded me of the Starless Sea. It just had little elements of different books I've read, but it was completely its own thing, and I really enjoyed it. I think the question it asks is, what defines ownership of knowledge, and should people determine who has access to different books and knowledge, or should knowledge belong to everybody and be accessible to everyone? I think it asks, can you trust yourself to be worthy of power when the price every time you use it is very high and costly? And then I think it asks, what happens when the pursuit of knowledge or the pursuit of power becomes more important than human connection? This book made me think a lot, and I read this very, very quickly. I read this in like a few hours. I could not put it down, and I stayed up very late reading this. I enjoyed it a lot. So I would recommend this book. Like I said, rated at 4.5. Really enjoyed my time with it. I put this, as always, in 2 spots on the board. The first was The Last 10 Years. I put this in 2024 because it was published last year. And then I also put this on our main board, and it is in the debut novel. So we have completed another square on the board by reading this. I am very excited to read more of Gareth's books that he comes out with and discover a new author I really liked. Okay, this was the hardest weekly ranking I have ever done. So if you don't know, every week we pick the top book from that week and we compare it to the other top books from the previous weeks. And picking between The Great Alone and The Book of Doors, I stared into space for at least 10 minutes trying to decide which book I liked better. The reality is, I think The Great Alone is a better book. Like, objectively. I think the writing's better. I think it's very powerful. I sobbed through it at a very intense reaction to the book. But The Book of Doors was so interesting and unexpected and beautiful in a lot of ways that I think I have to pick The Book of Doors, which is crazy and feels kind of sacrilegious to Kristin Hannah. But I think part of the reason I picked The Book of Doors over The Great Alone is because The Great Alone and The Giver of Stars were very similar books. And so it felt like maybe The Giver of Stars overshadowed my experience of The Great Alone a little bit, because it was all about like feminine endurance and the ability to push through hard things. And I love that. I enjoy reading it, but it didn't feel as novel to me as The Book of Doors did. So we put The Book of Doors in the 3rd spot on our weekly board. So it's between The Giver of Stars and The Night Circus. I really liked that book. I am curious to see if I'm gonna like it as much like 2 months from now as I did immediately after finishing it. Curious if the novelty effect is in place or if it's still just as good as I remembered. We are going to spin the weekly TBR. Here we go. The way I get nervous every time we do this. Okay. Oh, amazing. We get a mood read. I could do that. I can accommodate. Oh, This is my favorite category ever. Honestly, I love a mood read moment. Next week, we're gonna pick a mood read to read. I'm really excited about this. We have completed 2 out of the 6, where's my other finger? 6 books on the monthly TBR, so I feel like we're off to a good start. I'm excited about this. We have 4 more to read. I'm not sure how many we'll get through, but I'm excited to give it my best shot. I am heading out of town next week. We'll see if I read a lot on the plane. I don't know if anyone else does this, but when I go on a plane, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read so much and I'm gonna do da-da-da-da-da, and then I end up like not reading anything. So I'm curious to see if I am accurate in how much I think I'll read or not. But so far in this challenge, we have read 24 books. We are 10 weeks into the HRCYED challenge. Keep reading, keep resting, and I will see you soon.